Welcome learners to Lesson 26, Session 4. This is the last session of Lesson 26. We are measuring length and plotting data on line plots. The cool thing about the last session is this is the one where I get you started on the first page and then you finish them on your own. And then you get to come back and see how you did. Okay, complete the example below, then solve problems 1 through 7. Example. In Science Club, Lily measures the length of dragonfly wings. She makes a line plot of her data shown below. Then she finds one more dragonfly wing. Measure the wing to the nearest 1/4 inch. Okay. Add the last measurement to Lily's line plot. Which wing length appears most often in the line plot? Okay, let's go ahead and do what they've asked us. So what's going on in this? Lily is measuring the lengths of dragonfly wings. She made a line plot of all of her information. She made all of this. Then she found one more dragonfly wing and they want us to measure it. So let's go ahead and look. Here is the one end of the dragonfly wing. Remember, we line that up with the 0. And then we look at where the other end ends up on the ruler. So notice it, the line's here. This is 1. This is the line just after 1. This is 1 and 1/4. So this length is 1 1/4 inches. Then what did they want us to do? Add the last measurement to Lily's line plot. Which wing length appears most often on the line plot? They want us to do 2 things here. They want us to add the last measurement, and then they want to know which one happens most often. Okay, so we need to add 1/4 inch. Look, they did that for us already. They put it in light blue. So notice that this is the one that we've just added from up here. Now, which wing length appears most often on the line plot? Which one has the most X's? You're right, it is the 1 1/4 inches. So that is the one that happens the most often. It's the one that appears the most. So our solution is 1 1/4 inches appears the most. Okay, now let's do the apply it. Oh, before we do that, I want to make sure we talk about range and scale because you're going to need range and scale for when you get into the work on the inside. If we take a look at this line plot, what is the range of this line plot? Remember, the range is the distance between the smallest length and the largest length. So my range goes from 1/2 to 1 1/2. So the smallest wing was 1/2 inch. The largest wing was 1 1/2 inches. So when I make my line plot, I have to start at least with the half, and I have to go up to at least 1 1/2. Now, what's the scale? When she was measuring, what scale did she count by? She counted by quarters, by 1/4. Can you tell my puppy dogs like their bones? You can hear them crunching. Okay, so our scale is 1/4 inch. Remember that when you work on the inside packet. Number 1, use the line plot in the example. How many dragonfly wings are shorter than 1 inch? Let me read that again. How many dragonfly wings are shorter than 1 inch? Can they be 1 inch long? No, we need ones that are shorter than 1 inch. So let's go up here and look at this. Well, these are 1 inch. So can I count these? No, I need to count all of the ones that are less than 1 inch. How many are less than 1 inch? Count with me. 1, 2, 3. There are 3 dragon wings. 3 dragon wings are shorter than 1 inch. Okay, now what I want you to do is pause the video and continue working on the rest of the packet. When you're done, unpause, and then we will go over the answers together. Okay, hopefully you've had enough time to finish the packet. Now let's go ahead and look at what answers we might have found. Number 2, Lee measures the lengths of his friend's hands. He recorded the measurements in the table. So here are his friends, Artie, Leo, Meg, Olivia, Ruby, and Zane. And these are the measurements of their hands. What did they use to measure? They used inches. Okay, so now you had to make a line plot. Now, before you could start your line plot, you had to find the range. What is the smallest or the shortest hand? It was Meg. Meg had a 4 3/4. So that was the smallest hand length. What's the longest hand length? Who had the longest hand? Oh, look at Zane had the longest hand at 5 3/4. So our range is from 4 3/4 to 5 3/4. Let me zoom in a little bit for you. Maybe that will help. There we go. Okay, so in order to do the scale, I had to start at least at 4 3/4. Then I had to figure out what my scale was. What do I need to count by? If I count by whole numbers, it doesn't work. If I count by halves, it doesn't work because I have 4 3/4. So I had to count by 1/4 inches. So I started at 4 3/4, and then I wrote in my scale 5, 5 1/4, 5 1/2, 5 3/4. Now, once I put my labels in, I just counted how many of each measurement, and I put in my X's. Notice that 4 3/4, that was this one, and notice how I crossed it out when I was done. And these are the numbers that I found. If you need to, look at yours. Did you have the same information? If not, go back and try to figure out why yours is different. Okay, number 3. Use a ruler to measure the marker. To the nearest 1/2 inch, how long is the marker? Okay, now I wanted to double check this. Let's see. If I'm measuring the marker, I am going to put that up here. And I notice, what do they want us to measure to? The nearest 1/2 inch. Now, I'm noticing that maybe our ruler is a little bit different than what the ruler is that was in the book. Because sometimes when you photocopy them, they change in size just a tiny bit. So even though my book told me the answer is 3 1/2, I think if you measured this on your own, you might have gotten 3 inches. So if you got A, that's okay. Because I notice that if I'm measuring to the nearest 1/2 inch, mine's exactly in between. So I can see why you might have thought it was 3. And I can also say it might have been 3 1/2 because that's what the book told me. So we're going to go with what our ruler is here. I will take either of these answers. It can be A or it can be B because it was really kind of too close to tell. Okay, now Vicki chose B as the correct answer. Why did she get that answer? She chose 3 1/4. Why do you think she chose 3 1/4? She chose 3 1/4 because it is almost exactly 3 1/4. So she measured to the nearest 1/4 inch. So she's right, but she didn't answer this question. She's right because it is to the nearest 1/4 inch, but they asked us for the nearest 1/2 inch. So make sure you know exactly what the question is asking before you circle an answer. Okay, page 569. Okay, use the line plot to solve problems 4 and 5. I'm going to zoom out so we can see everything at the same time. There we go. So I noticed that in order to do 4 and 5, I kind of need to understand what's going on here. I noticed that this is the length of toy airplanes. I noticed that 3 of them were 2 1/2 inches in length. 1, 2, 3, 4 had a length of 2 3/4 inch. And here's the rest of the numbers. Okay, so now that we know what's going on in the table, let's see if we can answer the questions. Number 4, which set of data was used to make the line plot? All data are in inches. So which set of data, which set of numbers was used to make the line plot? Well, I crossed out 2 really quickly because I knew they couldn't be right. See how this had 3 airplanes that had 2.5 inches in length? There aren't 3 2.5 inches. There's only 1. So this can't be it. I looked here too. This one doesn't even have any halves or quarters, so it can't be B. So now I have to decide, is it C or D? So I'm going to look. How many were 2.5 inches? There were 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. How many had 2 3/4? 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. How many were 3 inches? Yeah, there's 2 of them. And there was 1 that was 3.5. All the data that's here is in this table, and all the data that's here is in this list. So C is the correct answer. Now, why is D not right? Oh, in D there's 2 3s. That worked. Oh, there's not a 4. That didn't work. Notice that there's no 4s up here. So that's why D doesn't work. Okay, number 5. Tell whether each sentence is true or false. There are 4 airplanes shown on the line plot. 4 airplanes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, there's 10. So there's not 4, there's 10. So this is false. It's not 4. None of the planes measure 3 1/4 inches. Okay, let's go look up 3 1/4. There's 3 1/4. Are there any planes? No, there's not. So that's a true statement. There are no planes that are 3 1/4. All of the planes are longer than 2 inches. Let's see. This is longer than 2 inches because remember, 2 is going to be over here. This is where 2 is. So, because that line actually technically keeps going. And so over here would be 3 3/4. So if we wanted to take that line plot and keep going, we could. So here's the 2. They're all larger than 2 inches. So that is a true statement. Exactly 3 planes measure 2 3/4. Okay, exactly 3 planes. Let's see. 2 3/4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4, not 3. So that is a false statement. So I colored in false. Okay, turn the page over. Here we go. Number 6. Use an inch ruler for this problem. After our little tricky problem with the marker, I figured we'll just measure these together with our markers so we make sure we get the right numbers. Okay, use an inch ruler for this problem. Part A, measure the leaves to the nearest 1/4 inch. Record the lengths in the table. Okay, so first of all, here's our table. We are looking at leaf lengths. They've named the leaves A, B, C, D, E. A, B, C, D, E. And now we're going to measure in lengths. Okay, so for A, you should have gotten, wait, what are we measuring to? Nearest 1/4 inch. Okay, I got 1 3/4. In B, I got 2 1/4. In C, ooh, that's close to 2 1/2. I'm going to go with 2 1/2 on this one. And D, that is closest to 1 3/4. And E, what is that one? If you guys need to, you pause and look. I've got 1 1/2. Okay, part B. Complete the line plot using the measurements you recorded in the table. Notice we have some spaces. We've got to think about our range and our scale. that's our range. What is the smallest leaf length? Let's go back up here. What's the smallest one? 1 3/4. 1 3/4. 1.5. 1.5 is the smallest, so I have to start there. Now, I have to count by the same scale. So that means I have to use the same scale between each one of these. What is the scale? What do you notice? Well, I notice that there's quarters and there halves. Since there's quarters and halves, we have to count by quarters. So since I'm at 1 1/2, I need to go up by 1/4. So 1 1/2 is, remember, that's the same as 1 2/4, right? These are the same thing. These are 2/4, so my next one would be 3/4. And then after 3/4, I would have 2. Because remember, 2 is the same thing as 8/4. Okay. After 2, I would go up by another quarter. 2 1/4. Then I have to go up another quarter, which gets me to 2. Oops, I was going to write a tiny little 2. I need a bigger 2. It's going to be 2 1/2. So I'm going up by 1/4 every time. Okay, complete the line plot using the measurements you recorded in the table. Okay, so how many were 1 1/2? 1. How many are 1 3/4? 1, 2. There we go. How many are 2? None. How many are 2 1/4? There's 1. And how many are 2 1/2? There's 1. Does your table look like mine? If you need to fix it, try to figure out why you got it wrong. If you got it right, pat yourself on the back. Okay, number 7. Nia and Kyle are making a line plot for the inch measurements 3 1/2, 2, 2 1/4, 2, 2 3/4, 3, and 2 3/4. Nia says the number line could begin at 0 and end at 4. So this is what Nia's thinking. She's going to start her number line at 0 and she's going to end at 4. Kyle says it could begin at 2 and end at 3 1/2. So Kyle says let's start at 2 and end at 3 1/2. Who is correct? How do we know who's correct? Let's figure out if we know the range and the scale. I know we can figure out that answer. So what is the scale? Do you notice all the numbers in here? It's different when they're all squished together like that. What's the smallest number that you notice in our list of numbers? I noticed a 3 1/2 and a 2. Anything smaller than 2? Nope. Our range starts at 2. Our smallest measurement is 2. And then what does it go to? What's our largest measurement? I've got a 3 1/2. Anything else? No, 3. 3 1/2 is still larger. So I have to go from 2 to 3 1/2. That is my range. My smallest number is a 2. My largest number is 1/2. What's our scale? What do we need to count by? I can't count by whole numbers because I have fractions. I can't count just by halves because notice I have some quarters. So I need to have a scale of 1/4 inch. So let's go back and look at our problem now. Who is correct? Can we use a line plot drawn Nia's way? Can we plot all of these points on our scale here? Notice she has 2 and she has a 3 1/2 and she has everything in between. Hers works. How about Kyle? Does Kyle's work? Is his smallest number 2? Will our 2 fit on here? Yes, it does. How about our largest number of 3 1/2? Does that fit on our line plot? It does. So does Kyle's line plot fit our range? It does. Does it have an inch, 1/4 inch scale? It does. I didn't write them in there just because they're so tiny. It might be hard to read them, but they can go in there just like that. Okay. So does Nia's work? Yes. Does Kyle's work? Yes. So what do we say about who is correct? We can say both are correct. They are both correct because they both have the range and the scale to fit the numbers, to fit the data. In other words, the data fits on both of theirs, and both of them are just as good. Okay, that is the end of lesson 26. Oh my gosh, we are getting close to the end. Okay, I'll see you on our next lesson.